Is Donald Trump set to enter the White House for the second time? Well, the surveys seem to suggest this. A new poll from Atlas Intel has claimed that former President Donald Trump is leading over Democratic rival Kamala Harris in each of the 7 swing states, though the margin is narrow. Trump is at 49%, while Harris is at 47.2%. The Yahoo News YouGov survey that had been gunning for Kamala Harris in its last 3 polls now shows that both Trump and Kamala are tied nationally with a 47% voter approval. The voting has begun, viewers. The first ballot was cast in New Hampshire. Final picture will be clear in a few hours. But this race to the White House was nothing less than an edge-of-the-seat thriller. There were assassination attempts at former President Donald Trump. Kamala Harris joined the race after Biden in a way, was forced to quit the race by his own party. In this bitterly fought, wild and tightly contested elections in the U.S., both the candidates, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump, made the final push in the decisive battleground states to impress voters as they wrapped up their respective campaigns. Right now, the leads in the swing states are quite small. But if one looks at the trends, then Trump seems to have a small lead in 4 of the 7 swing states. And to woo the voters in the swing state, both candidates left no stone unturned. On one hand, Elon Musk put his might behind Donald Trump with targeted campaigns. On the other hand, Kamala Harris had a huge support from the who's who of Hollywood. Can the celebrity influencers swing the US presidential elections? We don't know.
Your money is being wasted, and the Department of Government Efficiency is going to fix that. We're going to get the government off your back and out of your pocketbook.
You know what I hear my president and our president, Donald Trump, speak? He sounds for real, brother. He sounds like he has a heart of gold that's all for the USA. But when I hear Kamala speak, it sounds like a script from Hollywood with a really, really bad actress.
I like when the good guy, or in this case, the good girl wins. We should be upset. We should be scared and outraged. We should. You can't even spell American without Rican. This is our country too, and we must exercise our right to vote on November 5th.
I'm not here as a celebrity. I'm not here as a politician. I'm here as a mother. A mother who cares deeply about the world my children and all of our children live in. A world where we have the freedom to control our bodies. A world where we're not divided. Our past, our present, our future merge to meet us here.
Let's quickly open this up and let's bring in Jessica Stone, the VOA correspondent, joining us live from Virginia. Jessica, good to have you. Let's start with the basics.
Good to be here.
What's the buzz on the ground? What is it looking like? What are the people saying?
Well, it is finally getting warm out here in Arlington, Virginia. We've had a steady stream of voters. You can see all the activity behind me, lots of media coverage from around the world. The voting wait is about 5 or 6, 10 minutes or so. Definitely shorter than the wait that I had on Friday, which was more like 20, 25 minutes. So we are seeing interest, but we've also seen a pretty sizable response to the early vote. You know, Americans around the country were able to begin voting as early as the early part of October. So this was really a prolonged period of civic engagement in this election cycle. And those closing arguments certainly missed some of those early votes, but those closing arguments just coming in the last 24 hours, really honing in on the fundamental messages of these two campaigns, Harris playing to reproductive rights and just a desire by some Americans to keep the status quo, to have stability. And then on the Trump side, making that argument for immigration reform and immigration control at the border, and a better economy and tax cuts.
Yeah, Jessica, let's talk about the 7 swing states and how they hold the key to the door of the Oval Office.
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? In the U.S. system, it's not the popular vote that puts the president in the White House. It's the electoral college vote. So whoever wins or exceeds 270 electoral college votes is going to become the next U.S. sitting president. And what's really closely being watched are those 7 swing states. That's Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, and yep, that's how many states we're watching. And they are really the key. In particular, out of those 7 states, that's really the key is Pennsylvania. It has 19 electoral college votes. That's a majority. The largest prize, I should say, on election night of those 7 swing states. These are all states that have gone for one candidate or the other, Republicans or Democrats, by 3 points or so. So they're toss-up states, and that means their electorate can be swung by one party or another. Remember, 4 years ago, 43,000 votes separated Trump from Biden, giving Biden the White House.
Right.
Just 43,000 votes in a country of more than 300 million people. So it was tight then, but we know going into this election, it's even tighter.
Well, Jessica, let's for a moment park the politics aside. Let's talk about the celebrities involved in campaign on both sides and how they have influenced or they could influence the elections.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question because these are popular people around the world, right? And so your audience recognizes them. But in reality, only about 1 in 10 Americans, according to polling data, is really going to be swayed or even influenced by a celebrity coming out in favor for one party or another. We did certainly see, as you put together that mashup of different political messages from celebrities, a lot of women celebrities coming out for Kamala Harris. Of course, they're excited by the prospect of a first woman president, of the first African-American and Indian-American woman president. And so those are things that they are getting behind. And they're also getting behind a message about reproductive rights and reproductive freedom, which is something she has hammered home consistently, even though the sitting U.S. president doesn't have a lot of impact other than appointments to Supreme Court on reproductive rights policy. In fact, voters would do well if they care about that issue to be much more engaged on the state level, because that is where that issue goes next. In terms of celebrities on the right, you know, we've had country music stars. We had Hulk Hogan, you saw there, come out for Trump. Most recently, Joe Rogan, a former wrestler who is also a very popular podcast host, just in the last few hours before the polls opened, endorsing Donald Trump. We'll see if that sways the population of particularly male voters that the Trump campaign is going after.
Well, Jessica, thank you for joining us on Times Now. We'll keep coming back to you for more on this as we go along. Viewers, let's open this up. David Sofair, Republican strategist. Dr. Sampath Shivangi, National Delegate of Republican Party. Christopher Hale, Democratic strategist. And in the studio, Srinjoy Chaudhary, someone who understands the politics there, who spent time there and is tracking the polls really closely. Mr. Sofair, what do you make of the contest? The polling is underway. Who has the edge?
Well, yes, absolutely, and thank you for having me on today on this historic day. You know, at the moment now, of course, it's still too early to tell. We are, you know, watching Pennsylvania very, very closely and Arizona at the moment. So it's really, you know, a lot of early voting. You know, with the early voting, it's still neck and neck. So we have to see how it plays out tonight.
Okay. Christopher Hale, what's your take on the polls that we've seen so far?
I agree. I mean, I think that anyone who tells you that this isn't a coin toss race, I'm right here. Being on the ground suggests it is a close race. I think that I'll say this. I think that it is very likely, though, at the end of the night, that the winner of this contest will actually win by a comfortable margin in the Electoral College. Usually the polling errors in these states oftentimes swing the same way. So if we undercounted Kamala Harris by 2 or 3 points, she might win all 7 battleground states. And to the contrary, if we underpolled Donald Trump by 2 or 3 points, he might win all 7 battleground states. But that being said, I'm headed to the Harris victory party tonight in Washington, D.C. I do not think we will know a winner tonight. I think the absolute earliest that we'll know a winner will be sometime in the mid-afternoon tomorrow, but I expect that this might take a few days before we find out who wins. But this is definitely a coin toss election still.
But Christopher, at this minute, do you believe Donald Trump has an edge?
What's that?
Okay, we are having a few issues connecting to Christopher. We'll try and go back to him. Dr. Shivangi, a lot has been said and is being written about the 7 swing states. How do you see that analysis?
Yeah, very rightly so, especially Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia will play a major role in this election. I think that's why they spent all their, up to midnight last night, President Trump as well as Ms. Kamala Harris. I think we'll have to wait and see. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a Republican for the last 45 years. So I feel Trump has an edge. See, even 8 years ago, he was not given any chance of winning against Miss Hillary Clinton. He won against such a formidable opponent and candidate in Hillary Clinton because whole Democratic Party was behind her husband, who was the president of United States for 8 years and who was a good friend of India, to say some, which he couldn't win. So Trump may, he works under and with many people. It's possible. We're hoping he will win. He's good for India. I'm Indian American. I always think of India. I just wanted to clarify one thing about Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, she never declared she has Indian heritage or she is Indian American. She never said. I have questioned her for the last 6 years. She has never come up with answer. Even President Trump, in a press conference, he said he felt she is Indian American. How come she becomes suddenly African American? Where does he has that African American?
Christopher is smiling. Christopher?
If I could just jump in quickly, I think that, I'm not going to comment on that, but what I would like to say is that for the Republican side and the GOP side, it's very different because this is a historic time as the unions have not backed Kamala, and also there's been a huge swift change in demographics. For example, men of color are not, backing Kamala as much as they did Hillary or, Barack Obama as well. So there's been a big shift there as well. So the Republican Party has changed. We are now a big tent party. So we are for the working class, for the lower class, for the legal immigrant class as well. So we are also pro-union as well. So we are the party of jobs, job creations. So there's been a big shift. And the other thing is that Kamala is out of touch with a lot of the young as well. So
out of touch. We'll wait for the voters to decide on that. But Srinjoy, you've how many U.S. elections have you tracked? As someone who spent time in Pennsylvania, which is one of the swing states, what is your reading of the polls, the trends?
Pennsylvania is going to be the most crucial state. And Pennsylvania is a very, very unusual state, Pranesh, primarily because the eastern side is largely urban, Philly being one, and very urban, very blue, and also unionized to a large extent. The west, west of probably where the university, Penn State University is, the west, little towns, Pittsburgh apart, town like Johnstown, Butler, very famously where Trump was shot, Clareton, little towns which are 6,000 people, 10,000 people, 20,000 people. They're all very rural areas where hunting is big, and these areas are all very red. Now, if Kamala Harris has to be president, she has to win Pennsylvania. And if she has to win Pennsylvania, she has to ensure that the blue areas have a huge turnout. Now, all the people in the blue areas have to be enthused enough to go out and vote to counter the huge red vote that will come out in favor of Trump. Because in those areas, many of these towns have, let's say, or had one factory. like a steel mill or a glass factory, and because of a variety of reasons, globalization, NAFTA, a variety of reasons, these have all closed down. So there are very many angry young people who have listened to Trump, and Trump has said we'd raise tariff by 40%, and we will make Americans, open American factories, ensure that American young people have jobs in areas like Pennsylvania, like Ohio, like Michigan, like Wisconsin, places like that. Now, these are people who are going to vote for Trump. These are people who want Trump to win. So as a result, if Kamala Harris has to win Pennsylvania, she has to get all these people out from the eastern part, place like Scranton, where Biden is from, and ensure that all these votes that will come from the West will be counted.
So you believe that is a strategic mistake on part of those who are running the campaign for Kamala Harris? Let's bring in Christopher on that. Christopher, do you believe that?
No, I think that one of the things that I have been seeing on the ground here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is last night, Donald Trump had a rally here in Pittsburgh, a stadium of 14,000 people, where he held an event in 2016. It was filled to the rafters in 2016. It was half full last night. I think folks are tired of the same old shtick. We've been watching the same show for nearly a decade now, and people want to turn the channel. Look, I was at a Kamala Harris rally last night in Pittsburgh. It was the largest rally in Pittsburgh since November of 2008, when Barack Obama came the day before he was elected president of the United States. I also want to add one comment. Your commentators have talked about how this is a working class inclusive movement, but one of your commentators just suggested that Kamala Harris is lying about her Indian heritage. Her mother is of Indian descent. It's an absurdity. The birtherism that gave prominence to the Trump movement is still alive and well. This movement is not populist. It's not working class. It's rooted in bigotry. It's rooted in racism. And the young people that were at that rally last night, young Pennsylvanians, know that. They're not buying the lie. That's why Kamala Harris is going to be elected president tonight.
You know, the presidential debates in US are a big deal, is something that people around the world talk about. How much of an impact that has when people line up to vote? Christopher?
I wish it had a lot of impact, because Kamala Harris beat Donald Trump like a drum, and that the American people, including a majority of Republicans, thought that Kamala Harris won that debate hands down. Donald Trump's 78 years old. I'm worried about his mental acuity. He seems to be degenerating before our eyes, and that showed on the debate stage. The man cannot put two sentences together. It's actually deeply concerning. I think he might struggle from dementia, and I don't think that's someone we want to have as president. And when the American people watched at the debate, they'd agreed. But I'll concede debates don't decide the presidential election. If they did, we would not be having this conversation.
David Sofer, is that the case?
It would be a total trounce.
It's absolutely not the case. I mean, it's absolutely not the case. And look, at the end of the day, Kamala has been in power for 4 years. She's done absolutely nothing. The numbers don't lie. The border is in absolute shambles. We've got fentanyl deaths at an all-time high. We've got inflation, taxes. The whole thing is an absolute mess. And remember, with her own party, she was the most unpopular vice president we've had in a generation, okay? With that being said, Biden as well, equally unpopular as well. Trump's already been in there for 4 years. So what he's saying now is just, it's unbelievable. And to insinuate that he has a dementia or something like to that effect,
Okay. Srinjoy, you have the last word on the show. We have about 40 seconds left. And all presidential nominees have to make one crucial decision. We were talking about it.
Yes.
What is that?
Well, the first decision anybody has to make, any presidential candidate, is the vice president. I get to think that if Kamala Harris had chosen Shapiro, he's so popular in Pennsylvania, she wouldn't have had to worry about Pennsylvania. Of course, that's a personal belief, because it's America has become a 50-50 country, and Pennsylvania has become a 50-50 state. So the one thing that could have turned that around and given, though Tim Walz is a very good candidate, would have been Shapiro. But it's a choice she made. And we'll know whether she was right or not. She could be very right. And we'll only know in about 24 hours.
Hopefully in a few hours from now, we'll have all our answers. Gentlemen, I thank all of you for joining us on Times Now. Taking a quick break, the news are with Navita Kumar on the other side.